I divorced my wife after she cheated on me and fled, claiming it was only for fun. However, she returned pleading for my assistance, so I took this action. I had been married to my wife for 12 years at this point. We believed that we were married at a relatively young age. At the time, it felt right for both of us, or at least she was rather young. For us, the year and a half or so that we spent dating was plenty. We were aware that we were supposed to be, but I'm not sure whether that's still the case given certain subsequent events, together with my brothers. I own a jewelry business that we started from nothing and have grown to extremely profitable levels, which is always something to be proud of. I have a really good work. I am aware that doing business with family may be quite challenging, but for us, it has been an absolute dream. Your experience may differ because we've never been the type of siblings that constantly argue. In contrast, my wife built a charming cafe where patrons could read books, enjoy pastries, and sip coffee. She has always loved reading, and is among those who take great pride in making reading a part of who they are. Before I met her, those folks really irritated me. I am a hypocrite, though. Bite me. Since I was attempting to help her, I must admit that I was rather captivated by the notion. I have done her a favor by helping her pay the rent on the space she uses for the cafe. Because it's in a more upscale area of town, it's very pricey. But the business is making money, at least there's no rent to worry about, and that was enough to make me happy. That, I believe, is the background you require. This is when the real tale begins. Although I can't recall the precise date, I believe she approached me in March to inform me about this new man who had appeared at the cafe. She said he was quite attractive. Being a comfortable person, I discovered that we could discuss someone's beauty objectively without it becoming a major point of contention. But something about the way she continued to talk about this person was different. According to rumors, he appeared to be the type of male hero she reads about in the smut that women enjoy. Yes, she enjoys reading such types of novels as well. I can never understand why those women appear to be attracted to book conversation, since it seems to be the most corny kind of romanticism. In any case, she talked about this gentleman for a while before it ended. But I have to confess that the phrases she used were similar to those she used when discussing the cold, Russian hitman who fell in love with a woman in their apartment building's laundry room. I didn't make that up, sorry. That is taken from a real book that she enjoys reading. That was the end of the day, but she informed me that he returned the next day and they had a lengthy conversation. She said that he was originally from Serbia and had previously worked as a car dealer before deciding to come to the US in pursuit of a better life. It was taking him a while to get up and regain his sense of direction. Since he was skilled at it, he was searching for a job at local dealerships. In around 10 minutes I discovered that he was tall, blonde, attractive, well-dressed, and clearly spoke with an accent. It seems that he was a huge lover of fantasy novels like The Lord of the Rings and enjoyed reading literature set in the Untamed West. It's not like this was unusual. She frequently shares stories about her cafe's customers with me, but once more, there was a lot of flowery language used, and she appeared to be somewhat fetishizing him. She eventually stopped talking about him extensively, since he was no longer fresh to her. But it was evident that he was still frequenting her cafe, and I felt much better knowing that he no longer seemed deserving of lengthy outbursts every night. In fact, when I stopped by her cafe one afternoon to offer her lunch, I noticed a man who matched the description sitting in the corner. Admittedly, he was a gorgeous guy, and I was positive it was him. She said that his name was Ivan. Around this time, things start to become a little crazy. She had a silly smile on her face the night she returned home, so I asked her what was going on. She claimed that Ivan had escorted her home, and that they had discussed literature extensively throughout their stroll. She acknowledged that when he asked her out on a date, she told him she was married and couldn't accommodate his request. She said he was truly sorry, gave me a gentle handshake, bid me good night, and departed. She said, "It's like something out of a book," when I asked her why it was making her grin so broadly. To be honest, I was annoyed by that portion since it seemed like she was romanticizing every exchange she had with Ivan. Since he frequented her cafe, I was unaware of that. They would undoubtedly continue to communicate virtually every day. She could have told him that she didn't have a guy. But I didn't want to come out as insecure. So once again, even though I had some feelings about it, I didn't think it was necessary to discuss it. I had to move on from my sentiments, right? After a week or so, my wife brought home a bouquet of flowers, which she immediately placed in a vase, and I realized that this was not the case. She said Ivan had given it to her. Nothing noteworthy. He claimed to have purchased many fur coworkers. Oh, and he's got a job now. Her birthday was that day. And he constantly notices how hard I work, so he simply thought it would be good to get me some. She was attempting to portray herself as a schoolgirl who didn't know when someone liked her, so when she said that, I felt my head go heated. I asked her directly if she could sense Ivan's strong feelings for her. She thought the flowers were just a kind gesture, but she claimed it was clear, especially after he invited her out. I was perplexed by it since, as a male, you probably don't buy flowers for a girl who turned you down. As a nice gesture. Even if it was because she was married. He was still attempting to get into her trousers, or perhaps he was attempting to do it without bringing up the rest of the romantic things. At the time, he was enjoying his advances easily. He wasn't going to quit anytime soon. I knew that. I was correct since my wife returned home a little later than normal 2 days later. She didn't notify me that she would be late, and I believe it was over 2 hours later. Since this wasn't the first time she had ever been home late, it gave her 2 calls, which went unanswered before choosing to give it some time. However, she arrived at home before I could make a third attempt to phone, and it was clearly bubbly. You won't believe what happened to me that night. Before she launched into a lengthy speech about how she had shown Ivan the location of the museum, and that they wanted to have a slice of American pizza, because he had never tasted it and had only ever seen it in movies, it was the first thing she said. After that, they strolled, spoke, ate pizza, and did a lot of other things that I didn't really care about. But I let her continue. I asked her whether she was drawn to Ivan when she finished. She said that I was the only person she was drawn to in that manner, seeming rather horrified and upset. That she was only attempting to greet a visitor to a foreign nation who had no friends or family around to give him a tour and answer his inquiries. All of this didn't really convince me. I thus bluntly informed her that she needed to break up with Ivan. Yes. That led to a heated argument. She said, predictably, that it was being insecure, that nothing was fair, that it should stop feeling threatened, and a bunch of other bullshit. Even though I was furious, I managed to control myself and prevent my rage from erupting. However, I refused to back down and advised her to cease all extracurricular activities with Ivan. Since he was a client, it was reasonable for him to visit her cafe. However, things weren't meant to continue past that. If a Serbian girl came to purchase a bracelet and planned to take her out for a trip around town and all that, I urged her to picture what she would do if she were in my position. I would understand, she said, but I believe we all know that's a lie, don't we? To put it briefly, I slept on the couch. The good news is that I stopped hearing about Ivan and all of his drama, which was sufficient for my mental well-being, but no one is startled there. Once more, I was aware that she would be conversing with him at her cafe, but there was a limit to what could occur there, and because she was returning home at the same hour every night, I was satisfied that nothing was happening. When I unexpectedly entered my wife's cafe one afternoon and she wasn't there, I got really suspicious. Ivan wasn't either, but it didn't really matter because I couldn't be certain he would have been there at that moment anyhow. However, her absence did have a significant impact since it was quite rare. I considered waiting for her to return or asking one of her staff members where she had disappeared, but I chose not to worry too much about it. I noticed her and Ivan walking up the street with their arms clasped together as I was getting back into my car from the other side of the street. I waited in the car, saw them enter the cafe, and drove away, even though it took all of my effort not to jump across the street and beat the living daylights out of the guy and swear at her. I had a hard time processing what had transpired yesterday. As soon as she arrived home, I wanted to confront her about it, but I believe that knowing something that the other person is unaware of gives you a lot of power. It will facilitate my ability to detect other possible falsehoods. For example, when I asked her how her day had gone when she arrived home, she told me it had been rather uneventful and that she had not gone anywhere. The reason I'm here is because I have no idea where Ivan is. Is it better to try to learn more about the truth before I face her directly? I'm leaning more toward the latter as. I'm beginning to suspect that something is wrong with my nose, and I believe that if I approach her, all the possibility of discovering the truth would be eliminated. Please share your thoughts with me. Update 1. Hi everyone. This is me, the man from the post about the Serbian man and the wife with the cafe. I've returned with a significant upgrade. I discovered a lot, so let's discuss it. I needed some time to get the courage. However, I eventually came to the conclusion that I had to learn the truth at any costs. In this instance, I knew I had to set aside any moral dilemmas I might have had and check my partner's phone, even though I've never been the kind to smile at the thought. So when she was sleeping, I took advantage of the first opportunity I had to do it. Not unexpectedly, she had been chatting a lot with Ivan on her messaging app. I was able to export the full chat to a text file with ease because it was WhatsApp, which I transferred from her phone to mine. Naturally, I took care to remove the evidence. There were a couple photos of them grinning together in public that I found in her collection, but nothing really damning. I also texted those to my cell phone. Evidence was erased once more. I completed all of that in about 5 minutes and returned her phone to its proper place. I then read everything on my phone, which made it much less suspicious in case you woke up unexpectedly. And my brain was spinning from everything I saw. This is a transcript of a portion of the conversation that I found horrifying, It happened after they had been talking about a book that my wife had suggested to him. Instead of using my wife's real name, let's call her Clarice. By the way, Clarice, the primary characters made me think of us. Yes, I also had that thinking. The artistic girl who was caught between him and her lover, and the large, enigmatic hottie. Immediately thereafter, in a male, and several sultry sex scenes. I'm particularly reminded of us in that section. I concur that having sex is always enjoyable, but in your situation it's with a husband. Then came a dumb chuckle emoji. Clarice's laugh emojis. Yes, and I believe that's what adds to the excitement and enjoyment. It's really incorrect. Even though I've never cheated, I can't honestly claim that I regret it. That's what makes it so hot, even when it's wrong. Yes. And I hope this never ends. I went crazy about it. It was 2 a.m. I couldn't stay behind her at that time, so I went for a walk outside the home. I would have taken a wild turn. I had a good feeling about it. It felt like I spent 5 hours wandering about the town, although it was only 3 a.m. when I returned. She was also still asleep. Do you have any idea how it feels to discover that you are being cheated on, but then discover that your wife is making fun of you by enjoying doing everything behind your back? The thing that really pushed me over the brink was how she was. It wasn't as if cheating would be accepted anyhow. She was still asleep when I returned. I then seized her phone, skipped to the relevant section of her chat with Ivan, and recorded it on her phone. I had to be absolutely clear that this was not a case of doctoring. It was blatantly reprehensible that I had to be the victim in all of this, even if it was obvious that Clarice felt like she was living out one of her foolish stories. She is unaware that I am aware of this. The divorce is being prepared. This can't really go any other way. I must watch her fall, too. I must also watch Ivan fall. I need both of them to suffer, and I need them to hurt terribly. I'm not sure how I'll do this. Update no. 2. It has been completed, and it was magnificent. This concludes the story of Ivan, a Serbian man, and Clarice, his bookish but deceitful wife. They didn't realize that they ought to have been far more concerned for me during this entire situation. Allow me to skim the story's dull passages. One day I parked my Uber across the street while Clarice went to work. I observed the process server enter the cafe and give her the divorce papers in a quite visible way. We drove away after that, which was extremely pleasant. I had a wonderful day at work, and I was pleased to see that by the end of the day. I had not received any missed calls or messages from Clarice. She was aware that someone had made out with her, and pleading would not solve the problem. That's how I saw it anyhow. She returned that night, sobbing uncontrollably. She isn't leaking it out of her nose. To be honest, she looked like a complete mess. Seeing her in that state made me a little sad, and I blamed it on the remnants of love that remained. It was short-lived, though. She kept asking herself what went wrong. Was it Ivan? She had no idea how much I knew, I realized. She must have attempted to determine whether she had any leaks in her operation before she was unable to decipher what I knew. Ultimately, I promised her, although I wasn't sure if it was better to tell her I knew about Ivan. I didn't tell her anything else, but I claimed to have seen her, and to have been keeping it in that day as we walked hand in hand. She became brazen at that moment and began pleading with me and calling me foolish. She said that was not a good enough cause to divorce her. Was mistaken for continuing to see him. However, I was acting insecurely, and nothing was occurring between them. I was jealous. She seemed unable to decide whether to insult me or grovel. She eventually left my house after I urged her to. The actual divorce step begins there. I had a great time with that section. Since I have a lot more money than she does, there is a lot more to lose in a divorce, but there is also a lot more to spend on qualified attorneys, which is what I made sure to do. Are a decent lawyer when you are divorced. I can assure you all that it was worthwhile since, in addition to having several photos of the two of them after, I expressed my worries about it. I also had the text messages that amply illustrated the infidelity. Furthermore, my rock star lawyer was able to identify transactions in her joint account that appeared to have been related to Ivan. When he praised her for certain items in the text message transcript, he matched the dates of some transactions with those dates, and it became very evident that she was using our funds to support her lover boy from Serbia. I found it entertaining to see the lawyer do a fantastic job of portraying her as a gold digger. She gave it her all, but to be honest, I couldn't find anything to criticize. Even though I'm not a perfect person, I don't have any shortcomings that would cause a divorce. I truly had everything I needed at the end of the divorce. I retained my vehicle and my house. Additionally, no alimony was demanded of me because of that somewhat significant adultery and the fact that I had arranged for her to have a profitable business. Judge, I love you. The automobile that I purchased for her was hers to keep. That didn't seem like something I needed to worry about. And the fact that she didn't come out of the divorce completely empty-handed made it simpler for me to accept what I took. Now, this is what I like most. I found it difficult to retaliate against Ivan. It was really challenging. However, he was leaving the cafe one day, and I trailed him around the corner and down the street. I slammed him in the jaw after drawing his attention and introducing myself. He looked astonished when I used it to bust his lip and knock him to the ground, even though it hurt like hell. Although I wasn't seeking a street fight, I would have accepted one if one had been offered. I believe he got up and walked away after realizing he had no moral superiority on this one. It was pleasant. He knew he was playing with a married lady, so I wish I could have done more. But it was sufficient for me and probably the only thing I could have done without facing a felony conviction. Clarice followed. Are you aware that I was paying her rent? It was due again, and it was pricey because she had her cafe in such a lovely area of town. Normally it was due on May 1st, but it wasn't until the end of May that she called me in tears and said she was in dire need of paying the cafe's rent but didn't have the funds. She kept pleading, but before I disconnected off, I ordered her to sell the car to raise the money for it. I didn't answer the phone when she called many times over that week. Warning. When she called to begin berating me, I discovered she had sold the automobile. She said that the fact that I was unable to assist her at all was wicked. I told her that it was wicked of her to find cheating on me thrilling and enjoyable. She was unable to respond to it. I'm eager to see how she handles her rent difficulties in May of next year. She will also lose the cafe if the gods would have it. Especially because she will no longer have access to my bookkeeper. It has been great. To be honest, I'm recently single, wealthy, and really content. You can only go on, right? I won't claim that the divorce, betrayal, and adultery didn't hurt a lot because they did. I'm going to do just that. We appreciate your presence and the words of wisdom and support you have given us. Thank you very much. I'm hoping that I won't ever have to write another post. See you.